where do you even start? So how do you actually prepare your pelvic floor in pregnancy to push out a baby? And why is it not just about Kegels?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Denise. I'm so excited to chat with you and your audience as well. Yeah, so it's a big question. It's like, where do we start, right? Because so many people are just given this blanket statement of go do Kegels, and then people kind of go, what does that even mean? And you start to Google, and then there's this whole rabbit hole you go down, and it's not always up to date or evidence-based. So I think it is helpful to even know I've got my pelvic floor model.
Yes.
Yeah, to even know like what is our pelvic floor, because that'll give you insight specifically, because pushing, there's kind of a focus. We want to know how to relax the pelvic floor. Almost think of like we want to open the door for baby to come out. But within pregnancy, we do want to know how to contract and relax. And I think where the whole Kegel narrative comes in is when people get told to do Kegels, they're just told to like clench and hold these muscles, which that in itself doesn't necessarily do us much good. So let's even kind of briefly just even go over what the muscles are so people know. So the muscles attach from your pubic bone to your sit bones to your tailbone. So that whole red area, which is really surprising, is actually our pelvic floor. So there's the front and the back, and people are surprised. Anything to do with bowel movements, gas, tailbone pain, all of that is actually related to the pelvic floor as well. And then internally attaches from your pubic bone again to your tailbone, and really pretty far side to side. A lot of people think, because when we Google it, people are told, okay, stop pee. So we think, so this is your urethra where pee comes out of. We just picture there are these little tiny muscles here, but actually it's that whole area. These muscles help us not leak pee, stool, gas. They support our pelvic organs. They support our baby when we're pregnant, our back, our sacrum, our hips. So many key roles. So to give everyone an idea what the pelvic floor is. Now, how I was saying, it is important to learn how to contract and relax. And you'll hear different terms. What term do you use, Denise, for that? Because I call it core breath or core canister breath. Do you specifically use a wording versus Kegels?
Yeah, I say core breath, or the blueberry visualization. I do a lot. Yeah.
Totally. So that idea, right? So your audience is familiar with that. So that idea, we want to squeeze and lift and relax these muscles.
Right.
And when it comes to pushing and labor in general, we want to know how to more focus on that lowering of the blueberries, or we'll talk about the flower bloom cue. I know that you love to use with your clients as well. Focusing on that relaxation. Because like I said, when baby is exiting there, the last thing we want to do is be, if we're fighting a contraction or tensing, we're going against the opposite direction we want in terms of the pelvic floor to help give space for baby, right? So that's kind of the difference. But also to know too, our pelvic floor, how you use the term, the core breath as well, like how it's related to our diaphragm. And this comes into pushing as well. So this idea, if your diaphragm under your ribs, you got your pelvic floor. When we breathe in, they relax. When we breathe out, they lift. So that whole, that connection.
Right.
But when it comes to pushing, we'll talk about that inhale to relax. And as you exhale, thinking of it staying relaxed versus that extra lift with it. But I'm the same. I use core canister breath or core breath instead of Kegel when it comes to knowing how to contract and relax with it.
Right. So we do need a strong pelvic floor in pregnancy and in postpartum. So it is important to be strengthening your pelvic floor. And at what point yes, you need it to be strong and strengthened, but we also do need to work on relaxation. I think that's a big one, because most of us who hear Kegels, our OBs, doctors, midwives have said, do Kegels. But there's no real focus on explaining how to do them, right? Yes. So that's where that core breath comes in, but also relaxing. And I find myself type A, I know I'm a hypertonic person. So, kind of always like having the muscles more tight than they need to be. So let's go into how to relax our pelvic floor.
Totally.
for pregnant women, for pregnant women, and how this is going to help them birth the baby. Or I like to say, breathe your baby out, because
Yes.
I can't tell you how important having a doula was for me in my two births,
Mhm.
because not that I know you have your course, but the course that I
Mhm.
did was hypnobirthing,
Mhm.
and totally just help you kind of zone into how to breathe and how important breathing is in that labor process.
Totally. And yeah, I did hypnobirth going into my first birth. I was already in the perinatal world in terms of pelvic health and being a physio, but I took all these courses because A, I'm like, what could I learn more about? And B, I wanted to see what my clients were learning. So hypnobirthing I thought was great too, with the affirmations, meditations, the breathing. And then when it comes to the pelvic floor, so the cueing that I like to use is what we call the flower bloom breath. So that idea, again, going back to that diaphragm with the pelvic floor, when we breathe in, basically you're picturing like a flower bloom out of the vaginal opening. So inhale, bloom. As you exhale, you're thinking of it staying open. And I find this really helps people connect for whatever that image, the pelvic floor in the brain, it just really connects well, so that you open and then it stays open. And then you inhale, open another flower, thinking of it open, exhale, it stays open. Now, it can feel challenging because so many people are used to getting feedback. So when you do the core breath, you feel the squeeze and lift, and then you feel the lowering because it's been lifted. But this whole idea of relaxing and staying relaxed, we don't get the same feedback. So some people think like, I don't think I'm doing anything. Am I doing it right? As a pelvic physio, I can actually assess internally and give feedback that way. But for a lot of people, I tell them like, if you're not feeling the clench happening, you're probably doing it well. Like you shouldn't feel a ton happening. And then also the opposite, you shouldn't think of like pushing the flower out. That's another thing some of my clients do. They're like, I want to feel something. So I would like try to bear down and push it out.
Right.
That's not necessarily what we want either. So you won't get a ton of feedback, but that's not a bad thing.
Right.
Um, and when we talk about perineal massage a little later, that's what I cue my clients to use. And in the bump to birth method is I'll say, use the flower bloom you've been practicing while you do perineal massage. So then you're really connecting the brain with the pelvic floor of how to relax, especially when there is some discomfort, like when baby is crowning. If you've practiced how to lengthen, how to connect to relax versus tense up against that sensation, super, super helpful, especially around pushing.
Right. Okay. So let's do that, because
Yeah.
most people who are watching this, moms will probably know how to do your Kegel, exhale, pick it up, and then you inhale, relax, right? Exhale, pick up. Okay, so here's what I want you to do, ladies who are watching. I want you, yes, exhale, pick up. I want you to inhale, relax. I want you to exhale, keep relaxing. So that flower, keep relaxing as you exhale. Keep relaxing as you inhale. So fully relaxing the
Mhm.
pelvic floor as you inhale and as you exhale. So that's what Anita's talking about in her
Mhm.
flower bloom breath. I'm actually going to link your quick YouTube video
Yeah.
too, because the way that you say it is so relaxing. And I forget, I don't know, maybe it's just your fingers. I forget what
Yeah.
visual you give, but I give this
Yeah.
to a lot of my clients because just the way that you explain it, the softness of your
Mhm.
voice is just so perfect for my clients in going through this. So
Awesome.
that's
Awesome.
how you will be doing that, and breathing for birth as well.
Totally.
So can
Mhm.
you give us, because you've just talked about flower bloom breath, but what are some relaxing pelvic floor, I guess, positions that we can be in
Mhm.
as well?
Totally. So I like to pair the flower bloom with postures, and often a lot of prenatal yoga postures are amazing. So um some are stationary, so potentially malasana, like that deep squat. You may want to be supported by some yoga blocks, but that deep squat and doing your bloom there is great. Or
Yes, I do
using,
this one against the wall. So I
yeah,
get moms to
that's
do it
great.
against the wall, get nice and low in that squat. Yes, that's a
Yeah.
great one.
Yeah, I love that one. And then you can also do it with dynamic movement. So cat cow is an awesome one to do it with. Any of those where you're opening, the kind of thinking basically, because with cat cow, essentially your pelvis is doing a pelvic tilt. And so it's a great way to add that bloom kind of behind you. Child's pose is another fantastic one. And then also if you're in your third trimester, use it with labor positions that you're learning. So then even better when you're in labor, we don't know what your body's going to gravitate to. So practice a variety of them. But if you practice doing that bloom in various positions, again, that's going to connect even more once you're in labor.
Exactly.
Yeah. And even another way I tell, do it with bowel movements. When you're in the bathroom, going to the bathroom, it's a great time to practice the flower bloom, because essentially when you go pee or poop, you want to be relaxing the pelvic floor. So
Right.
great time to practice rather than straining.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good one. And using the birthing ball, I'm sure you use that a lot in your course with your clients as well. So yes, definitely getting you to practice all of these things. Can you tell us about your bump to birth course and method that you have?
Yeah, totally. So I created the Bump to Birth method. It's an online program. You do it from the comfort at your home at your own pace. And really, it's around giving you guidance to have less pain and pelvic floor symptoms in pregnancy, mentally and physically prepare for labor and pushing, including minimizing tearing, also key strategies for your partner to support you during birth, and how to navigate your postpartum recovery. So it really goes through pregnancy, birth, and postpartum recovery. I really felt strongly it needed to include all of those pieces, because there's often, with a lot of prenatal courses, it's just birth. And there's so much more to it that you can get value from. So that's what is in the program. And it really guides you step by step. So it's short video and audio lessons, and then also complimentary handouts that go with it. There's also a partner labor prep workshop. So all the lessons that are broken down into smaller pieces for you to watch, and your partner can watch any of them too. But if you kind of want to sit down together and get so much of it that they need to know in one time, it's about a 90-minute workshop. And I'm teaching it to you that you can like pause it and practice things, practice labor positions, practice pushing positions. So it's so many people have gone through it, say that was really key for their partners. So they had strategies. They have pictures, everything. So often they'll save that in their phone. So when labor comes and something comes up and the partner's just like, okay, how do I do this again?
Right.
So it really helps both of you feel prepared, but also the key things around, like, so many people, as you know, Denise, go through, leaking pee, different types of pain, prolapse symptoms within pregnancy. So I wanted to make sure there were lessons on all the common pelvic floor and pain issues that come up in pregnancy. And then you have a lot of key strategies that I share with clients in kind of a general way that you can then use at home.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm going to put the link down to your course. And do you also have a freebie? I believe it's your Discovering. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So it's a free guide, and it walks you through in terms of, discovering how to connect with your pelvic floor in pregnancy. So it walks you through that core canister breath, the flower bloom breath, and how to use that within pregnancy. So it's a nice kind of easy, quick way to review some of the stuff we talked about, and also have it in written form. So you can definitely grab that as well.
Awesome. So you guys can get that down below. Anita, thank you so much for joining us and answering my questions. And I will have your Instagram, your website, all the details in the description box below for the moms who are watching. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Denise. Yeah.
You're welcome.